Good evening. Again, my name is James Benham. I own a construction software company called JB Knowledge, and we write a lot of code in the AEC space. Got 3 products, and really started out in the construction space in bidding and pre-construction. So we work with a lot of estimators and pre-construction managers. I've been writing code since I was about 11, so my background is definitely on the code authorship side. Most of my team's been writing code since they were early teenagers as well. And we wrote a very meat and potatoes application for construction that sent out emails and faxes and distributed plans through a plan room so that subcontractors can download plans and collaborate electronically. Well, that's a really plain Jane type of application, but we really worked on improving it through HTML5 and some really great technology on the web, and went mobile. But I've really always been captivated by a few things in the AR space, and I really like this thing right here. This is a recent quote from a GC that I was talking to. I do talks all over the country, get to hang out with GCs. He said, I got into construction because I didn't have to be a rocket scientist, only to find out now you have to be a rocket scientist to be in construction. This is how most of the general contractors line. I mean, we've got a lot of big guys, a lot of little guys, and most of them feel really overwhelmed with technology. This is the overwhelming sentiment among most of them on how they feel about new technology. So, in the last 12 months, a few things have happened that I think have really impacted us in the space. Bandwidth is finally getting way, way, way better. Kansas City, Austin, Provo have all been started up by Google Fiber. LTE speeds are a lot faster, and we're finally getting the capacity to send massive amount of data. And we all know what big piece of data we're trying to push in construction, and it's models, right? I mean, models are gigs and gigs of data, and we had a really big problem getting that out to the field. And so we had 2 things that happened really concurrently. We got really, really good field connectivity, and we got really good mobile devices, all at the same time. And we finally have mobile devices that are really lightweight, fit in your hand, and can process 3D graphics and complex computation all at the same time. And that's why I tell people the dot-com boom happened a decade too early, because it really did. The bandwidth and the computing wasn't ready, and now it is. The exciting thing I've seen in mobile computing is that for the first time, and I do a lot of job site visits and job walks and hang out with GCs and subs, for the first time I'm seeing average subcontractors, tradesmen, demanding iPads. And I've never seen that before, and I'm finally seeing your average tradesman, your average GC demanding technology. Your average job supervisor in College Station, Texas, where I live, home of Texas A&M. We have a bunch of, we got a bunch of big construction projects going on right now, and I walk those job sites because I'm a city councilman there, and I go for a little visit, thank them for building in our city, and I see crusty old superintendents, right? That's the crusty old supers that are walking around with iPads. So I know the tech's finally here. So, a couple other things, mobile tech's finally affordable. So this is a client of mine in St. Louis, SM Wilson, that's using PlanGrid on an iPad with an HDMI connection to a TV in a $200 metal shack with an HP JetDirect air printer, wireless direct printer. So this whole setup costs $1,300, and everybody in their company loves using it. And really, 5 years ago, this kind of setup really wasn't even technically feasible. And now it is, and all their files are synchronized between all the different job site and the back office because they have an LTE connection on the iPad. And so, great for PlanGrid, and I love what PlanGrid's doing in the space. They threw out an app that people really love. We're also seeing adoption rates skyrocket. We did a survey of all of our customers and prospects and our friends in the space, and they're seeing like a 91% adoption rate of smartphones out in the field, which is just colossal. So all this stuff is combining together with a high adoption of BIM. So a few big problems that we saw in the technology space is that the biggest one that I've seen in competing in the construction software space since 2006 is the fact that no one uses any standards in the business, and it drives us all crazy. SmartBid, our bidding solution, is all wrapped around master format codes. Those of you who know all about master format know that GCs are really, really, really reluctant to adopt anything beyond master format 95, which is the old 16 division trade code system. They don't want to go to master format 04 and above, and that presents a huge, huge problem for us in the space. The first thing a lot of GCs do when they get our software is they delete or remove or hide all of the like 900 of the 1,000 codes that describe what they do. And so they'll categorize specialty subcontractors in big buckets with non-specialty subs. And it's a big problem. And so a year and a half ago, I formed an organization with another guy, Benny Baltrowski from ESUB. We started the Construction Open Software Alliance. And it's an alliance, it's constructionosa.org. We got 13 companies now that are members of this, including Sage, which I was really excited to get Sage on board, that have committed to open standards integration. We're working on time cards, and we're working on plan rooms. We already have both of them authored, and we're actually implementing our plan room standard right now with 6 different plan room softwares. So you can take a project, all of its specs, all of the plans, export it from one system, and import it into another without doing any data manipulation, which is a huge step forward. So you have a McGraw-Hill publishing plans in their lead network. You could download that lead and then import it in your own private construction office. That's the type of integration that we're pushing for. And so when you wrap great connectivity, great mobile devices, and then finally some software companies that are actually exchanging data using the same file format, it allows you to do so many things in technology. We've got guys like AEC Cloud, About Time, OPS, NoteVault, ESUB, Sage, Pipeline, some really great companies that are pushing a lot of data. I mean, SmartBid, my product, we send 250,000 invitations to bid every day. We distribute 1 million plans every week. We have 63,000 subs a week log into our software. And so it does not take many of these companies to really make a standard go worldwide very quickly. I mean, and we're just one of many here. Sage, obviously, is a dominant company worldwide, and so they're building these standards into their new Sage Construction Anywhere platform, which is their cloud delivery platform that they partnered with Windows Azure on. So all of this being said, I've got a few predictions for the future that I think are going to impact, and we'll jump in. I think that really biometrics are going to make passwords completely obsolete, and that's a really good thing for construction, in particular for time recording. That's a big part of construction, is logging time and figuring out who people are and making sure they're not fraudulently logging time. So I'm really excited about what the iPhone started to do. I think we need to improve on their fingerprint recognition security and technology. When glue can override it, that's not a good thing. But there's some great things going on with biometrics. The next big thing I'm seeing happening that I think is going to have a huge impact on project managers, the RFI process, submittal, takeoff management, is that we're going to have true asynchronous collaboration across a bunch of apps. So that means that you guys use Google Spreadsheets, right? So I'm seeing some nods, Google Spreadsheets. Okay, Google Spreadsheets solved one big, massive problem for Excel, right? Which was real-time collaboration. So you can have 15 people on the same sheet at the same time. This has been a huge problem in construction software, is that we had to hit the save button and refresh. And if you had 15 people on a bid day, and you're all in a competitive hard bid, and you're getting numbers in, you have a bid captain, you got 15 people working trades, it was a big problem to figure out who had the most recent copy. And so asynchronous collaboration, Google Spreadsheets is really leading the way on this. But there's some great products like Cloud Takeoff. If you want to try Takeoff, the Google Spreadsheets of Takeoff is cloudtakeoff.com. And they actually allow 15, 20, 30 people to take off a single plan file simultaneously. And they see each other's conditions as they're taking it off. And so you don't have to collaborate on who has the most recent plan set, who has the most recent takeoff data. So I think this is going to be pervasive in construction. That means that estimating and project management tools won't have a save button anymore. Joke. Because we don't need them. Right? We save as you type. So we don't really need a save button, but people feel uncomfortable if we don't have one. And so, and then augmented reality really becomes pervasive. And this is what I really wanted to get to. For augmented reality to really work, we've got to have all the previous things that I listed. We've got to have connectivity everywhere, really, really, really good connectivity everywhere. We have to exchange data in a common format so that the viewer can read what the person's exporting. And we've got to have computing that's really powerful on the end user. Now, AR really captivated my imagination a while ago because I realized for the first time in human history ever, we have a computing device that combines all of these things into one single device. If Tom Hanks would have had this on Apollo 13, he wouldn't have needed to hold the window around the moon and guide himself back. I mean, he could have done it with his iPad. I mean, we have more computing capacity and more sensors in the iPad than we had on our landing module that landed us on the moon, and that amazes me. So that means that we can do some really cool stuff. Now, all the really early stuff, and I've been following AR since, my gosh, 2008 was the first AR ad. Does anybody remember a crosshair? It's called Nearest Tube. Yes. Any English in here? So what it would do is overlay the direction of the nearest subway entrance or nearest tube entrance in London on the street. I used to joke people would be so obsessed with looking at their phone, a double-decker London bus would plow them over before they got to the tube entrance. But Nearest Tube really captured my imagination. Then some great guys out of London with String came up with some fantastic AR 2 years ago, and I started working with them. They did some really fun, this is their AR viewer, and they did a really fun one here. This is like a little family crest, and what I love about what they did is that they made interactive augmented reality, and so you could have this little guy walk around. And my favorite thing about AR is that, of course, he knows his plane of existence. He knows his X, Y, and Z axis. And so you can make him move and walk, and you can interact with him. And one of my other apps was this little dragon guy, because it allows you to actually view three-dimensionally below an object, right? So it renders a hole, and then a dragon comes out. And I thought, man, this is going to be amazing to show what a sub-level would look like. For instance, the student union at Texas A&M, they just added 100,000 square feet to it. One of the big things they did at A&M Student Union is they punched holes in the floor so natural light could get all the way down into the basement. Because the basement was a cave. When I was a student, it was a cave. And they punched holes through. Well, with this technology, you could just lay a whole marker down, a 10-foot by 15-foot marker on the ground, and literally see into what the basement view would be after you punched holes in the floor. What a great way to visualize to the owner what it's going to feel like to be able to see down in the basement. You could also tack it to the ceiling and see up into the sky, right? And so I really liked what String did with all of their different technology, but most of String's application was really artistic and consumer and retail in nature. They did a lot of interactive ads in Europe, and one of the big problems with their AR tech, you'll see, when I put my hand, partial occlusion, when I put my hand in, it no longer renders the object, and you had to put these black boxes around everything. And so it made it really unpractical for construction. And then the great guys at Qualcomm came out with Euphoria, and I was talking, I don't think he's here anymore, but they gave it away, and I just couldn't believe they were going to give a framework away, because String was charging thousands of dollars per developer for their API license. And I kept trying to figure out a way, how is AR going to really functionally, practically work out in the construction space? I mean, let's stop with it being a toy, right? Construction workers hate, well, they like toys. But the people that pay the bills are not going to buy toys, all right? They're going to buy tools, not toys. So how do we write an AR tool that actually delivers enough value to make it worth buying and using? And so I talked to a bunch of BIM managers, a bunch of estimators, pre-con guys, project managers on a daily basis that are our users. And so they said, look, here's our big list of things that we think would really work. And so we landed at our Smart Reality product. And I will show you a couple of things here about Smart Reality. One of the key things about Smart Reality is just simplicity and user interface. When you fire it up, it gives you a project list. Unfortunately, we can't load all the projects simultaneously because of the size of BIM models and the amount of RAM that can be addressed on an iPad. The old iPads just don't have enough, and fortunately the iPad Air, the new iPad, is a much more powerful device, and it's going to solve some of these problems. But once you select your project, you don't have to deal with a menu anymore. That's one of the key things about AR, is we want the average job site superintendent to use it. And really getting Revit models out in the field was our primary concern, not just the site plan model like this, which is a really great step forward, where you can point and it's scaled. The building matches the site plan exactly. You can move it around, interact. you can scale it up to size, so you can actually peel away layers as well, look at structural models, and then walk into the model and walk into the building, which is really useful to show people what they're about to build before they build it. But this is more visualization. The main calls we get on this particular model is from owners and really developers that want to sell and use this for business development. And business development tools are interesting, but I'm much more interested in practical operations. And I think examples like this are much more pragmatic. And this is a parapet detail where you can actually view the cross-section of what you're about to build. You can put it in place in the building, and then you can actually blow it apart and break the components apart of what you're about to view bring it, shake it, move it around. You can see Horror Construction, big GC in Birmingham, helped us out with this, so we did a little shout out for them in the model. But you can go in and break the model apart, put it back together, and then you can just drop it on the floor. And I'm kind of tethered here, the lighting's not great, but you can drop it on the floor, and then you can actually scale up the model. There we go. Right, and so we can actually put it on the floor and scale it up. And so you can do some fun things with, we actually are, the next version we're doing a life-size scale button, so you just hit life scale, and then it'll actually bring it up to actual human scale. Yeah.
Is it processing the information in the sheet to develop the 3D?
No.
It's associative to it? It knows
We get the model, right, we get the model, and then we have the target. We pre-process and associate the model to the target. And then we provide all the interactivity. So we break it apart into layers that are practical and make sense for that particular object.
It's recognizing the
It's recognizing the plan. And one of the key things we did is actually, to make it feel more realistic, is actually keying the model to the exact components on the plan so that the outline of the model matches the outline on the plan file. So it really feels like it's kind of stuck to it. And the really cool thing is you can hand all the viewers an iPad, and they can all view the model. And this is the problem with using BIM out in the field, is that typically you have a computer hooked to a giant monitor, and everyone has to view the same thing at the same time. But with this, everyone can view the same model from different angles, from the angle they want to view it from. And I can be on the structural model, someone else can be viewing the cladding, someone else can view the HVAC and mechanical on the same model at the same time. And then when we switch and we go to the parapet detail, we all view the parapet detail, but from the angle that we're viewing from. And this is really where I see a powerful use of AR. But I didn't want to stop there. I mean, I thought, okay, this is great. I mean, this is going to sell like hotcakes. I'm excited about it, and that's interesting. But even more interesting than this is what we can do with aerial photography, because one of the big problems we've always had is getting the bigger picture on a job site. And quadcopters have started to be used fairly heavily, but I said, look, from the beginning, we've got to do something really cool that allows them to stop having to get cranes, or a lot of guys will fly airplanes over job sites as well. And so we did this just to kind of prove. We had to do a lot of custom fab to get this done. But this is a DJI Phantom. It's an aerial drone that you can actually, it's GPS programmable, and costs about $500. And so what we actually did is we custom fabricated a mount that went under the Phantom, and we ran our iPhone app, and then we actually built video recording into our augmented reality app, so the app records its view. And then we launched the aerial drone in the air. We printed a giant target on the ground, and then you'll see, as soon as it sees it, it renders the building. Now, because we can scale it to any size, this means that we can fly, we can fly over a dirt site, and we can actually render the building on the dirt site. In the orientation it would view, the orientation it would look like, in the exact frame of reference. That also means that if the owner doesn't like it, that we can turn the target and thereby turn the model and toy with different building orientations and building placement on the dirt site in real time. We actually used AirPlay and wirelessly streamed the video back to a laptop so you could see it in real time. And we can actually even give the owner control of the drone and let them fly around their own job site. So there are some really neat things you can do when you combine all of this GPS and mobile and AR tech together to help owners make better decisions before a building's built. And you can see the type of stuff, and this is without even doing motion stabilization, by the way. This is completely unstabilized. Once we do motion stabilization, the applications are pretty gigantic for what we can do, because the video will smooth out. Outdoors, this has a difficult time getting done. So that's certainly what I see in the immediate future. This app's in the App Store right now. It's called Smart Reality. You can download it, install it. Go to smartreality.co and you can download it and print your own targets out and go to town. We're doing a new version coming up with more projects. But beyond this, I think AR's got a long way to go, because our ultimate vision of AR is that we can scan, print, visualize, and process and operate. It's got to be a tool, not a toy. For it to be a tool, we have to be able to do things that actually deliver value. And so scanning. We just saw an example from 3D Systems of a scanner that can scan ahead, but the kind of scanning system we need is basically one that you can stand in the middle of a room and scan the whole room, right? That's the type of scanning system we need and the one I'm looking for, because then you can immediately develop a model. Now the great thing is the guys at Vuforia have started to build things where you can scan objects and immediately process them as targets. But right now, if you want to scan a room, you have to put a laser scanner in the middle on a tripod, and it spins around really fast, and it captures a whole room. I really just want someone to be able to walk in with an iPad and view the room, scan it, and get an as-built immediately. Because then we can model it, and then we can overlay objects on top of it immediately. Printing's also important. That 3D printer you saw is more than just a toy, right? We can actually print objects that become augmented reality targets. So we can print little objects that you can place on a plan file, and you can actually, through smart reality, orient buildings on the campus and configure an entire campus in real time just by moving chess pieces around. And that's pretty exciting. And then, of course, visualization, both with augmented reality and virtual reality. And the ability to actually process and operate, and that's where I think AR needs to really head, is pulling in BIM data, cost data, schedule data. That means that really where we need to all head is 4D AR. And that is the ability to view augmented reality over a period of time, whether it's through a slider, whether it's through hand motions that move it forward or backward in time. If you guys remember the Minority Report, that was actually a 4D viewer that Tom Cruise was using when he was going through different video. He would do this to speed up and this to slow down. And I really think that type of motion can be incorporated into augmented reality to view the entire project schedule, the building from the dirt work all the way through the interior finish out. That's where AR has to head. And we need better hardware to do it, because those type of models, 4D models, are gigantic. I mean, they're huge, and they require some better hardware. The other place I see us going is that biometrics are going to play into augmented reality as well to tell what user is and who they are and what they need to be viewing. So when you have biometrics on the home button of an iPad, that makes a big difference. And so I really see incorporation of biometrics, asynchronous collaboration. Why not do a 3D quantity takeoff with augmented reality on the job site, right? Right now, most of us, if you're in estimating, you put a plan down and you count and measure, or you do it on-screen takeoff. But I think AR is a great platform to do collaborative takeoff. And then really, ultimately, I want to get rid of the iPad, because the iPad is kind of big and bulky, even though, by the way, for you Star Trek fans, I should note that Jean-Luc Picard had an uglier, fatter, lower res iPad than this one. So we have a better iPad than Jean-Luc Picard had, but it's still too big and too bulky. And so the best viewers, in my opinion, will be the contact lenses that are being worked on with embedded diodes. So where you actually have LED embedded contacts. Favorite movie on that is Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, right? So the ability to put contact lenses in, have them pair to your iPhone, and then walk on the job site. I think that's the ultimate for what we really want to do. I'm not going to get in the hardware business yet, but that's what I want someone else to build. My predictions, wearable computing is going to become very dominant in the construction space, both for collaboration and for safety. If you look at what Trimble's doing with their safety systems, they're building in sensor arrays that wrap around giant equipment, and I think that those sensor arrays will be able to communicate in real time with the workers on the job site, so that they can alert them to potential harm that's about to become them. And we don't want that to happen, right? Safety is a big concern in technology. And also the ability to view something that's about to be built. At one of my talks, an electrical contractor came up to me after the talk and said, hey, can I give my workers a set of glasses and they can walk around and see all the places they're supposed to punch in their conduit? And I said, great idea, not yet, but it'll come. And so I think wearable computing is going to take the place of tablets. And then obviously, I mean, I don't even think I need to mention this. I mean, 3D printing is going to take the place of a lot of different, once we work out the safety issues, flammability issues, usability issues, I think you'll be able to fabricate pieces, parts, components, and tools on site. And then, of course, eventually fabricate entire buildings, which this usually, when I talk to your average group of contractors, not the ones that are foresightful enough to come to a hackathon, but the average GC. I just got back from Kansas City, and when I mentioned the fact that you can actually print a building, they get a little freaked out about it, needless to say. But certainly, ultimately, all of it's headed towards that. So I was asked to keep it to about 15 minutes, so that's the speed version. You can find out more information, smartreality.co, jamesbenham.com is my personal site, my blog, and I post videos and do all kind of other stuff on there. Thanks, guys.